Hi, and welcome to this YouTube channel with Cecilia Hector. And today I have a guest, and it's Marina Galan. Welcome, Marina.
Thank you, Cecilia. Thank you very much for having me here. It's such a pleasure and such an honor to be here with you. Thank you.
And it's really for me a pleasure to have you here, Marina, because I have listened so much to you, and yeah, it's very beautiful to have you here. So thank you for coming.
My pleasure. I mean it.
And I told you before we started that I was listening to you when you were talking in some webinar. I don't know which, but it doesn't matter. I heard something, and I thought that could be the subject today. And it's, you are free to suffer if you want to.
It's a bold statement, huh? Yeah.
Because this is something that I didn't feel was true when someone told me that in the beginning, when I was listening to the 3 principles, that you are free, your thinking is free. When you're feeling so bad inside, you don't see it like that you are free.
I know.
So I wanted us to talk a little about that, Marina.
Sure, but can I ask you what you heard in that? What is it that impacted you about that insight?
Why I wanted to have this subject was because I didn't see it in the beginning like I had a choice. It's like I get very irritated. You maybe think that I can choose, but I don't see like I can do that. Yeah. So maybe you can do it, but I can't. And I get upset about that. Oh, then I'm awful. I'm a mistake or something because I can't stop think this.
Yes. How do I exercise that freedom?
Yeah, so I have to suffer because I can't do it like you can do it. I can't understand it. And I hear a lot of people I talk to saying the same thing, that maybe you can understand this, but I can't.
Right.
So maybe you can see it like I'm free to suffer if I want to, but I don't want to suffer.
Of course.
So why can't I stop this thinking?
Does it look any different now? Because you said in the beginning it looked that way, but does it look different now?
Yeah, it looks very different. And the difference is that I can really see that I still suffer sometimes or often, but I'm also knowing now that I'm guided from the inside. I can feel that thoughts are coming up and it feels, but after a while it moves on and a new thought is coming. So I don't need to hang on in that thought for a long time. I need to stay with it for a while, but I also know that it's moving, and life is moving all the time. And I didn't trust that before.
Right. And yes, I understand what you're saying. Well, here's how it looks to me now, because it used to be the same for me. I didn't feel free when I was, submerged in the tragedy of what was my life for many, many years. And it seemed like no matter how hard I tried, no matter how many different things I tried, there was no way out. So there was no will involved in it at all. I was a victim of, I was subject to circumstance. And then through this understanding, when you really begin to understand the role of thought in your experience and the ways in which you can transform your relationship with your thinking, you start discovering tiny little spaces in which a different flow happens, like you are saying. Things change. And you really see for a fact that suffering cannot be sustained 24/7. We wouldn't be able to stand it if it did. And so there are breaks, there is this flow, there are pauses in which we simply forget our suffering. I don't know how else to say it. We forget that we are suffering, and we find ourselves in a completely different flow with life. But then as we begin to deepen our understanding, we see exactly what you were saying, that we do not need to hang on to the thoughts that bring suffering, that cause suffering. And when you start playing with not hanging on to, you realize that choice. You get to know that choice. You know, so many people have asked me throughout the years, well, how do I stop engaging with my thinking? How do I let go of my thinking? And there is not one answer to that. There are many different answers to that. But I think they all boil down to, if you hold your thoughts more lightly, if you don't take the thought or the experience as absolute, as unavoidable, as if they could determine who you are and what you go through. So even the smallest, tiniest doubt that you have about one feeling opens up a space for something different to show up. The tiniest doubt that you have about a thought being true opens up a space for another possibility, for another way, for another truth to come through. And sometimes that tiny little crack in the certainty of what our thought and our experience and our identities are is enough, because then it is cracked, you see. And it seems like when you bring doubt to the table and there is that crack in any certainty, the mind really understands its role as a servant and then goes looking for more options. Yes? Is that making any sense, Cecilia?
Yeah, and what comes to me now is that I came to a point in my life where when I was believing so much in my thoughts, and I was suffering so much that I somehow, it came to a point when I had enough. It was like I had enough. I gave up. I gave up everything. I wanted to just leave this life. And then when I let go of everything, something just came into my mind. And it's difficult to explain it, but it made me curious about what's happening here in this feeling. It was another feeling. And the feeling opened up for something, and it was just little.
Yes.
And it has been little for 3 years now, little and little and little, but it's a big, big difference.
Yes.
From now than it was for 3 years ago.
That little difference is enough, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
But I think I had been curious because I had seen that if I start to listen more, because I was so up in my own thinking, and it was the same all the time, saying the same things, that I'm bad and I'm nothing and everything. And when I stopped to listen to that and went out to a lot of webinars with you and with all kinds of people, listen to what they were saying. In the beginning, I fall asleep all the time. I think there is a lot of YouTube videos where Cecilia is because I was sitting and listening, and then I had some rest.
Of course. Of course. But you see what you're pointing to. Two of the things that you're pointing to really point to exactly the same thing, which is when we give up, when we stop the constant chatter, when we allow that pause in the loop, in that second, it doesn't take more than a millisecond. In that millisecond, when you give up, you allow the system to bring you back to health, to a healthy state of mind, to a healthy state of consciousness. Because I don't know if you will agree with this, Cecilia, but when you say, I had enough, it's like you were trying and trying and trying and trying, and you're just exhausted and you give up. It seems to me that is part understanding that we cannot bring ourselves back to health. That is not up to us. That is just how the system works. So we can work against ourselves, use our thinking to create suffering, use our thinking to judge ourselves and punish ourselves endlessly. But the second we stop, the second we pause, the system brings us back. I am deeply, deeply, deeply grateful for that part of the design, because I think if it were up to us to come back, man, that would be so complicated, like learning how to bring ourselves back. Can you imagine that? So really knowing deep inside that we can think ourselves out of health, but we cannot think ourselves into health, makes absolutely clear that our best option is to give up on our thinking. Like, we can go at it for hours or years or decades until we can't anymore and we give up. Or we can learn to give up sooner and sooner and sooner. And so understanding how it works allows you to give up sooner as a strategy. Give up sooner. Become aware of when you are creating suffering or frustration or resistance with your thinking. And the second you see it, give up so that the system can bring you back. And when you learn to give up sooner, you don't need to go to the extreme of decades of suffering because until I have enough and then I give up. You begin to give up sooner, and then you have a much more elegant flow, graceful flow that doesn't need the extremes. Yes? Now, again, the feedback system, what lets us know that we are using our thinking against ourselves, is how we feel. Right? So the emotional system is the feedback system. It is incredibly useful to know, to have a mechanism that lets you know, that alerts you when you are using your thinking against yourself or against others. Because if you learn to read those signals, those alerts, you learn to give up sooner and sooner and sooner and sooner. You see? Now, again, it's just a signal, it's an alarm. The system will never force you to give up. It can't. You are free to suffer. You are free to use your beautiful gift of thought against yourself and others if you want to. There is a lot of grace in the fact that we have that choice. Because it would seem like it would be easier if we didn't have the choice, you know, like the system will force you to go back once it's been enough, you know, once the suffering has been enough. But if you really look at what having that freedom means, what having that freedom implies, you will come to see that you are that free because you are that trusted by life. Because you are that loved by life. You are so loved and so trusted that you are allowed to use your power against yourself and others. But here's grace. You will always be invited back to health via your feelings. You will never be abandoned. You will never be left alone. You will always be guided. That was the word you used. You will always be guided. And that guidance is back to health, back to peace, back to well-being. It is deliberate.
And I'm so grateful and happy that I could be guided also by people like you and all the people I have met these 3 years, because I could, with that guiding, I could come back to home, to myself, to me, and not the old therapy forms that they believed in my thoughts that I was sick. I was going in the wrong direction, and I couldn't do both. I couldn't look there and look there. It's like it didn't fit. I needed to let go of going back and going forward. I needed to stay here and focus. Who am I? Who is looking out through my eyes. And that's the thing to reach people, to go inside instead of out in all these methods.
Yeah. Yeah, the way it looks to me, Cecilia, is like we are companions in the path. And we have the amazing privilege of being able to guide others back. And it's not guide them back, but bring the possibility of awareness to them that there is a choice, that the system is working for you, that it has your back, that you are being supported and guided. And so we remind each other of how to go back home, how to go back home.
And how did you know that? How did you see this for yourself, Marina?
The fact that we have that privilege.
No, when you saw it for yourself, that and you know that this is true for everyone. I know it's true because I feel it.
Yeah, well, I had searched for a very long time. I had searched for a better way to cope with life, a better way to cope with my story, a better way to make that story and that identity fit into the world in any way that would resemble health in any way. You see? And I had found a lot of things that were helpful temporarily, but only temporarily, and not sustainable in the long term. And when I stumbled upon this understanding, the promise was not only that it was sustainable in the long run, but that it was absolute. You see, it was absolute. And I would forget there was that promise as well. There was never a promise of it will be absolute and you will always know. No, it was very honest in that sense. Like, it will be absolute and you will forget. And when you forget, you will suffer, but you will remember. And there will be others that will remind you, that will help you remember. And to me, at the beginning, that sounded outrageous, impossible. I don't know, just outrageous. You know, like, how dare they say that something like that is possible? How dare they, after the suffering that I have witnessed and that I have endured, how dare they? And yet, something inside, something tiny, as you said, tiny, asked, what if? Bless you. Something tiny asked, what if? What if that could be a possibility? You see that crack? You see that crack in the certainty? Well, what if it were possible?
Sorry.
And ever since, it's okay. And ever since that crack appeared, the feeling that I got out of that crack, you said this too, the feeling that you got out of that was so unbelievably beautiful. Hope, I guess we could call it. And I guess something inside recognized that as go in that direction, because what if? what if? And that was enough. That was enough. I found a silence that I did not know existed in that what if. Because there was finally a silence that my rational mind did not need to answer. My rational mind did not need to rush into figuring out. It was just an open question, you know? What if? And there was silence enough and space enough to allow life to answer. And it was evident from the first moment that it was not going to be a fast answer, you know, like, what if? Yes, because this. No, it was, I was inviting life to show me whether it was possible. And in that invitation, I knew that life could show me again and again and again and again in all sorts of different ways. And it is still showing me. It is still showing me. Behind that, what if, beyond that, what if, I have found the possibility of shedding so much of what I thought I was, of what I thought others were, of what I thought life was. And in shedding, there is also freedom. You see? And so if anything, this understanding has, I would not say set me free, because the freedom was always there in the first place. I was just not exercising it, you see? So this understanding has allowed me to realize and exercise the inherent freedom that I have as a human being. Does that answer your question?
Beautiful. Yeah, it does. And what's coming up is when we are suffering, we feel very separate from all people and from everything. And we feel like I'm the only one. I'm the only one feeling this. No one else can understand me. I'm the only one.
Yeah.
So it's a very lonely and separate feeling. And it doesn't feel comfortable at all.
No.
So
No.
if we can come see through this illusion, maybe we can't in the beginning when we are up in a, when we're suffering in a thought we believe in, but after quickly in a while we can see it. Oh, I'm here again. This happened again. Because life happens.
Life happens and humanness happens. No? We
Yeah.
will.
And it's very normal. What's normal? I don't know what's normal, but if we could see that that life gives us everything, every emotion, it's okay that we have this. We cry and we get angry and we feel uncomfortable and it will never stop. But we understand why or how it works.
Yes.
And then I don't need to go and be afraid of my thoughts like before. And that's a difference, but I still cry. And often I hear people say when they come across this, oh, no, now your life is so happy all the time. But it's not. It's not like that.
No, it's not like that at all. You see, that is not the promise. The promise is not the absence of challenges and tribulations. Challenges and tribulations are guaranteed in life. Guaranteed, like there is no way to avoid them. There is no escaping them. We are all desperately trying to avoid them.
Yeah.
But they are a guarantee. They are. Now, here's something beautiful to consider, Cecilia, because no matter in what tradition you search, you will find that there is no promise of, I will keep you from tribulation, I will keep you from difficulties, I will keep you from problems and tribulations. But there is the promise of, I will walk with you through them. No matter what tradition you look at, you can find this in Judaism, Buddhism, Christianity, everything. There is a sense of companionship. Now, what does this mean? If you look at it in the religious sense, of course, God will be with you in your tribulations. You will not be alone. He will comfort you. If you look at it from point of view of this understanding, is your understanding will be with you in dark times, and it will help you. It will provide the support that you need throughout those dark times. You see, and so again, there is so much beauty and so much grace in that, because you stop running after fantasies of a trouble-free life, of a problem-free life. You assume your human condition completely, fully, open arms, gracefully, and say, okay, let's do this, but we'll do it together. Now, not only do you find the promise of the understanding, or however you want to call it, being with you, walking with you through the difficult times, but also you start discovering that everybody feels the same way that you do. Every single person. Because we all get lost. And yes, the details of the experience can be different. You know, like I lost my dad when he was 94, and yesterday I was talking who lost their dad when they were 5. Of course, there are differences, but we both know loss. We both know the absence of a father. And in that sense, the more you realize that every single experience is a universal experience. You know, a 3-year-old that, I don't know, lets his ice cream fall and is devastated because now there is the loss of the ice cream. You can understand loss. You can understand the experience of loss. And in that way, you come together, you come close to others, you find each other in experience itself. When we recognize this, we have the privilege of being companions to others. They not only have their understanding or their God or whatever to be through them, to love them through those difficult times, but we get to do that too. We get to love others through their dark times. We get to be companions. And oh my God, isn't that an amazingly beautiful thing to be able to do?
It really is. And I also know that I can really see the sign when I'm up in my thoughts and I'm not feeling good. I'm suffering, and before I wanted to run away from it. I wanted to fly away and then I took the wine, or I took the drugs, the medicine, and because I couldn't bear to feel all that.
Yes.
And I didn't know that I could, and no one who was helping me did that, what you said. Walk with me, hold my hand, walk with me, hug me. They just gave me, here we go, take this.
Fix it.
And I couldn't, nothing was better. It get worse. I just run away all the time from everything.
Yeah.
And I know now that what I was needed was someone who could walk me, like you said.
There you go. Be a companion. But you see, the reason why we are able to be companions through the dark times is because we know that they are not absolute and they are not forever. You see? So when we believe that they are absolute and that they are forever and that they are identity, then we want to fix them. That trying to fix them makes sense. Trying to be a companion doesn't make sense. Why would I want to spend the rest of my life, being with someone who is in absolute darkness? No, let's fix it. Now, this understanding makes you free in that way as well. It makes you free to experience anything. It gives you the freedom to feel anything and think anything without getting trapped in it. You see? Because you were sharing your story with me earlier today, Cecilia. And I completely understand how terrified you were of your thinking and how you wanted to avoid it at all costs because it trapped you, because it was forever. But when you know that you are free to think anything without getting trapped, and that you are free to feel anything without needing to avoid it or change it, isn't that real freedom?
Yeah, and I know that I scared myself. I scare myself all the time.
Yes, we do.
And it felt very real.
Now, I have no idea of how true this can be to others, because this is just my experience. I am going to speak from personal experience now. But it seems to me that every single human being in the world speaks feeling. Like you find someone, you find a friend in a cafe shop or something, and you feel them before they even open their mouths. You're sitting across from your brother or your sister, and like, are you okay? Like, you can feel them. It's very obvious to me that we are fluent in feeling, whatever that language is, from a very early age, because otherwise we would not understand sarcasm. And you see little kids that they get confused when the feeling doesn't match the words. See? And if you observe little kids, you will see that they trust the feeling more than the words. So if you tell a child, oh, you dummy, but you say it with a lot of love, they will pick up on the love.
Yeah. And that's really my guide nowadays. That's really my guide, like you say. I look for the feeling. How does this feel? And I have been walked away from a lot of things lately. I have done that. And that's not because I hate people or don't like you. It's just the feeling it's not right for me. So I don't go there.
Now consider this, Cecilia. if we are fluent in feeling and intuitively we trust feelings, of course, we learn not to da 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 da. But if intuitively we allow ourselves to trust feelings, why would we run away from a feeling? Why would we be scared of a feeling? So here's how it looks to me. This is where it becomes personal. I don't think we can decode the language of feelings rationally. I mean, we can create a story about them, but it will always, the feeling will always be larger than the story, much bigger than their story. There is much more information in the feeling than there ever will be in the rational story that we can tell ourselves about the feeling. Now, what if allowing ourselves to feel completely, giving ourselves the freedom to feel completely something, allows our system, I am not talking about the rational mind, allows our system to extract all the information it needs from that feeling in order to respond to life more wisely. And so rationally, we become scared of the feeling and we try to change it and we reject it and we push it away and we're terrified of feeling. But what if the information we need is in the feeling? Like Sid Banks said, all the information you need is in the feeling. So why not open ourselves up to feeling it all, like really completely? Do not interrupt it beforehand. Do not cut it short with your rational mind. Do not limit it with a story. Allow yourself to feel and trust that that feeling is going to bring the information that you need. Not decoded intellectually, but it will bring the information that the whole system needs in order to respond to life. Isn't that a beautiful idea, though?
So beautiful. And it's just what I have been seeing for myself, because I really know that when you go against yourself and your feeling, if you do something, be with someone you don't feel, you're not connecting with a good feeling, or you don't like to do this, whatever it is, something is going to struggle. You started to struggle, and then you feel it in your body.
Yes.
And it's just telling you, you're not supposed to be here or do this.
Yeah,
Follow
absolutely.
your heart. The heart knows. You can never lie to your heart.
Yes, follow the heart, follow the gut. Now that you're talking about the brains in the gut and the brain in the heart, right? So we don't know how many brains we have, and we don't know how many decoding systems we have. But oh my God, do we intuitively understand feelings from very early on? And so the freedom to feel, what if that is also the freedom to acquire wisdom, knowledge that is needed? Right? And so we go back to Sydney Banks' quote: if human beings learn not to be afraid of their experience, that alone could change the world. What does that mean? If we allowed ourselves to feel and stopped fearing our feelings, that alone could change the world.
Yeah, and until you can see that for yourself, you can walk together with someone.
Yes, and you'll forget. And luckily, oh my God, Cecilia, I don't know about you, but I feel so unbelievably fortunate to have found people that speak this language, to be part of a community that knows how to accompany, how to be companions, how to walk each other, remind each other They don't need to save you. They don't need to change you. They don't need to fix you. They're just there to remind you.
And that there is a language behind words. I have been speaking to people from Africa, from India, from Mexico. Marina come from Mexico. It's just like we function the same.
Exactly, the universality of it.
And I have also been speaking to people that can't speak. They're not able to speak with words. I work with a girl. She can't speak, but she speaks.
Of course.
She speaks with all her body and her eyes. And if I listen behind words, I can understand. And I have been working with delivering children at the hospital for 20 years.
Wow.
And you can't talk to a mother having contractions. It doesn't work. You need to understand what they want and just be there.
And that is through feeling. Yes, you have to understand intuitively what it is that they need.
And you know how to breathe and how to point a person to come down, to slowly breathe again.
Yes. I have a question for you. Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
You were saying that when you are helping a woman deliver a baby, you cannot talk to the woman.
Not always.
Not always. Okay. Yeah. Do you find in your experience that there are ways in which you can talk to the body of the woman?
Yeah. Sometimes I feel like I'm having the baby. It's like I'm doing all the breathing and compression and and everything. And it's just it's like when I go out there, it's just that I had been having the baby. So you go in the feeling a lot.
But if you caress or if you massage or if you stretch, way of talking to the body. Yes,
I can see if they are tense or they need, if I need to hold here and to just here, and just sometimes I just hold here, and so when we breathe and come down, and kindness and awareness.
But realizing that kindness, for example, is not only a verbal thing, it is also an energetic thing, it is also a physical thing, it is also, there are all these components. And so we realize that we have all these languages that need to be aligned in order for the message to actually make sense.
And that's also, you feel if someone are giving you kindness from a deeper place, from heart. You feel that, and you feel if they are wholly there for you or not.
Absolutely, I totally agree.
And are they very stressed? It's better for them to go because it doesn't help them. You can't lie when you are in that position, and it's the same with small children. You can't lie to them. If you can't sit there and read the book not stressed, it's better to not do that.
Of course, I completely understand.
You have to do it another time when you are more calm
and listening to that as well. You know, like, I realize that I am tense, I realize that I am not in a good space. I cannot trust my thinking right now. So I better not act according to my thoughts right now. And recognizing that gives us, again, the freedom to step back and say, I'm not in a leading position right now. I need to let this pass.
And I don't need to judge myself because I'm feeling that.
Exactly, which is, oh my God, like there are so many theories that are shameful that way. You should know, you should control, you should know better, and I love the fact that this understanding does not pretend to make you perfect. Does not pretend
Don't you hear that in your family? Don't you hear that in your family? They're saying, you don't know, don't you know about 3P? This is this now you're yelling here and
Absolutely. Oh my God, you have no idea. My 3 teenage boys, they are so hard on me sometimes. But anyway, the fact that it does not try to take your humanity away.
no.
It is truly integrative. It's like, no, ego is not an enemy. Thought is not an enemy. Getting lost, there's nothing wrong with that. You see, so it's completely integrative. It really allows you to be fully human.
So you're allowed to get angry with someone. You're allowed to say that I don't like this.
Again, you
I
are
don't
free.
want you to do this.
Again, you are free.
Yeah.
But it also makes you fully and absolutely responsible for the consequences of your actions and decisions. You see? So you are free to get angry. Yes, you are even free to act out your anger, but you will suffer the consequences of acting out your anger. Because it was your choice, you see? So in that sense, by giving you absolute freedom, it also gives you absolute responsibility. And it's not always evident that absolute freedom means absolute responsibility. We often mistake absolute freedom with an absolute lack of responsibility. And it's not true. Can't be. Can't be. And so it balances it out, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's sobering. It's sobering. And at the same time, it's releasing. In its honesty. No? Yeah. I think one of the most interesting experiences has been trying to really bring this understanding into my motherhood, into raising my children. And I of course, I err all the time. I make so many mistakes, it's ridiculous. But trying to gift them that freedom and that responsibility, and helping them see how they can exercise the freedom in as much as they exercise the responsibility. Giving them the choice to decide who they want to be and how they want to be and to what extent they want to be that. And having absolute respect for their wisdom over my preference. It's actually very similar to what we're doing in coaching, right?
Yeah. And it's very beautiful if we can, when we see, I mean that we see what we see, where we are in this consciousness right now, and that's floating up and down, and if we can know that the children have their wisdom.
Yes.
It gives them more space to be who they are.
Absolutely. And I think the clue of it all, Cecilia, is not only knowing that they have it, but pointing it out to them constantly.
Yeah.
And you trusting it in them as proof of you can trust your wisdom. I trust your wisdom as your mother. So you can trust your wisdom completely, even if I disagree with it, even if, see what I mean? It really allows them to stand in themselves and grow to their full stature. If that's an analogy that
And
makes
this is something you easier can do if you have seen it for yourself.
Oh, of course. You can't do it if you haven't seen it.
No. It's that's why it's so hopeful if we can go more in this direction.
Yeah. And seeing it for yourself, experiencing it yourself, and being respectful of that in others makes you defend your own wisdom fiercely. Not violently or anything, but fiercely. Like, you can tell me your opinion. Yes, you can tell me your opinion, but I will respect my wisdom above anything and anyone, because I can trust that. And developing those levels of trust that are not necessarily rational.
And that's a very big difference for me. Last time.
What do you mean?
Because I always walked in other footsteps. It's like everyone knows better than me.
Yeah, there you go. There you
And
go.
now I've started to speak out how I feel, how I want.
How has that changed your life?
A lot. But I can still have these thoughts coming up, and is it okay to go this way? Yeah, but it is. I know it is. But in a bad, low mood, it comes up, but just for a little while, and then it disappears again. So and that's a thing with have this YouTube channel, that even if I had thoughts about, oh, why am I doing this? But I'm doing this because it's so hopeful. I know that we can bring something very, very good out to people.
And that's a lot. That's plenty.
Yeah. And maybe someone hears just little like I did on a YouTube channel. And that little open ups for something we never know.
Absolutely. What a joyful job, hey?
Yeah.
Congratulations, Cecilia.
And I say congratulations for you. And you are also working with 3P Gese.
3PGC, yes.
Yeah.
Word now, yes.
Yeah, and for the listener, it's the community where we share about Sydney Banks' experience about life. Yeah.
The understanding of the 3 principles, and there's also a huge effort in really trying to create a global network of collaboration in sharing this message and helping each other
Mm.
in
And
every.
you really do that in all kinds of countries. You speak with a lot of people,
Yeah, we
and you do a very great job, Marina. A very great. You speak from a very heartful place. Nice.
Thank you, Cecilia. Thank you very much. We can only speak from experience, right? We can only speak from what we have seen ourselves.
Yeah.
And that makes all the difference. Yeah.
And other people feel that.
Yeah. Yes, we seem to be very intelligent that way. We know when what we are hearing is authentic and when it isn't. Right?
You do.
We intuitively know. How fortunate, no? That we work that way, that we function that way.
So I recommend the people not only to listen to my channel, also listen to Marina.
Thank you. Thank you,
So
Cecilia.
thank you very much, Marina, for this talk.
Oh, I've enjoyed every minute of it.
And we can do it again.
Yes, please. Let's do it again. Anytime. My pleasure.
We do. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Cecilia. I'll be seeing you around.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.